You're listening to the Fab Entrepreneur Show, and this is episode 28. In this episode, we're talking about how to break down creating and launching a course into manageable 2-week sprints and how that can save you time and save your sanity. Hey guys, it's Mariah.
And I'm Megan.
And my hair looks really weird today. I feel like I just have to get that out of the way, guys. I'm aware that my bangs are unruly. Okay. So we're featuring our Launch Your Signature course students, and this week's podcast is sponsored by our very own Ashley Sorokas, who is from brandbuildblog.com. She's a Launch Your Signature course student, and she's also a registered holistic nutritionist, an essential oil educator, and a holistic business coach. She's also a mom. She basically does it all.
She's got a lot of titles.
She's got a lot going on. Some of you guys might have seen my video interview with Ashley. She's one of our super successful students, so we love to show her story everywhere. Her online course is called Brand Build Blog, and it's a branding and blogging course for holistic biz owners who are tech shabby. I love the way she says that.
I know.
Brand Build Blog is the step-by-step program that shows you how to pick your ideal business, pick your clients of your dreams, build a website that attracts them, and then turn that website into a marketing machine. You can visit brandbuildblog.com to get your free brand and website checklist. Definitely check out Ashley. She developed and created this course while she was in Launch Your Signature course, and we're super proud of her and everything she's created. All right, so let's hop into the episode.
Yeah, I'm excited. You've been talking about sprinting a little bit lately, and we've gotten some good questions about it. So that's why if you don't know what sprinting is, don't worry. We're going to explain that. But Mariah, why don't you kick it off?
Yeah, I've kind of been on a sprinting kick lately because recently I taught a workshop that was just like a free live workshop that I felt inspired to do, mostly because I was having such a hard time prioritizing and developing my own sprints. And if you're not sure what the hell I'm talking about, just wait a sec. But I basically was having trouble with my own sprints, so I did a workshop to help me explain how I plan my time and how we manage our time as a team. And so basically I taught a workshop about these 2-week sprints in your business as a way to actually get things done and how to break big projects up into little 2-week chunks and then focus on only that little piece of the project during that 2 weeks so that you're making real like incremental progress instead of feeling really scattered or feeling really disorganized, or, you know, a month later you look back at your to-do list and nothing seems like it's happened, is usually because you're just unfocused and you don't really have a plan of attack. So after that workshop, which we will link to in the show notes, you can get it at thefemshow.com/planning. If you're listening right now and you haven't seen this workshop, it's absolutely essential. At the time of recording this, more than 12,000 people have gone through that workshop and told us that it is life-changing. So definitely check it out. But someone asked after I did that workshop how I would break up course creation and launching into these sprints, like using, at the time of the workshop, I gave tons of different examples of things that could be put into 2-week sprints. But someone asked, well, how would you create and launch your course on this type of schedule? So today we're going to be talking about how to break up what can seem like a really big and overwhelming project, like launching this course, into small chunks that are called sprints so that you can actually get it done just one little piece at a time. And then by the end of all of your sprints put together, you'll have your course ready to launch. So we kind of want to go into just very basic overview of what we mean when we say a 2-week sprint. But like I said, I explain this in a lot more detail in this workshop that I did, and you can watch it for free. It also has a downloadable workbook that goes with it that's super helpful. So you can actually like plan out your sprints alongside us. And so that's at thefemshow.com/planning. But I just wanted to really briefly say that a 2-week sprint is basically a 2-week period when you start and finish a project with no other outside distractions. So you're working on a single objective and a single project for 2 weeks, and you're not working on anything else. So you're not trying to make a little bit of progress on 3 different projects. You're starting and finishing one. This is like how people actually get things done.
Yeah.
And in terms of like where this idea comes from, so this is based on the methodology. I guess I'm as I'm reading Scrum, it's not really, he kind of says that it's like not a methodology, but it's from this idea of Scrum that basically talks about like it's a way of project management and a way of productivity for getting things done, specifically as it relates to teams, but we found that it works for individuals as well. Especially our students.
There is a Scrum book. So we'll put a link to that in the show notes also in case you want to actually read about Scrum, because sprints and the Scrum method kind of go hand in hand.
They kind of go hand in hand. It's like sprints are like one tiny little piece of like the Scrum way of doing things, and Scrum is like its whole own beast in and of itself. But even if the only thing you practice is focusing on one project for 2 weeks at a time, I think that in and of itself is going to change the way you get things done. So during a sprint, during this 2-week period, you don't work on anything else outside of that one project. It's a very focused way of getting things done start to finish, so that you actually have something to show for it at the end of those 2 weeks, instead of just incrementally creeping along with 10 different projects, feeling really scattered. So basically it's like you're going to start and finish your complete, creating of your sales page or something in this 2-week period. Okay. So a couple examples, like I just said, one would be like, during this 2-week period, I'm not going to work on anything else. I'm just going to create the slides for modules 1 through 4. Okay, that would be a really good sprint. Another example of a good sprint would be like, during this 2-week period, I'm just going to get the sales page created. So I'm going to write the copy and I'm going to design it and I'm going to set it up. And the sales page is going to be done. So instead of saying like, I'll just kind of work on the sales page, once a week as it happens, you're really committing to getting it done. Another example of a sprint could be like writing out your pre-launch content, right? So that could be like, okay, for this 2 weeks, all I'm doing is writing emails, blog posts, and social media posts that I'm going to be using during my launch. Another example of a 2-week sprint would be a giveaway. So promoting and running like a viral giveaway with King Sumo or something like that, which we can put the link to in the show notes. To build your list, that would be a good sprint. And another thing that I do want to mention is that a live launch, like your open cart period, is a sprint in and of itself, because you are 100% focused on that and you're not working on behind the scenes projects during a launch usually, because you'll be busy.
Yeah, you will be doing other things.
Yeah.
And I know you've already mentioned some of the great benefits of why we like to do sprints and why we recommend them. One, for my little planning self, I really appreciate that by doing sprints, I can actually plan out a launch in a more realistic way. So I can say, these are all the things I need to do to actually launch this course. I can break those up into sprints, and doing that will show me how long I need. So I might start this process. We have students do this where they're like, I'm going to launch in 1 month. And it's like,
right.
You can, if you're willing to like do nothing else except 24/7 do this. But, you could actually go through this process and say, well, I need at least 4 sprints to do this. And if each sprint is 2 weeks, then I need at least 8 weeks before I plan on launching my course. So I feel like it's a really smart way to also project when you might be able to launch your course.
Yeah, definitely. It helps you plan out realistically how long is this going to take. And you don't try to squeeze in, like you can't say like, well, I'll just make we'll make this sprint be 3 days or this sprint is only going to be 5 days. It has to be 2 weeks. So you're creating projects that are 2-week projects. So the first thing you're going to want to do, in terms of translating, creating and launching a course into the sprint system that we outlined, you want to put everything into a logical order that makes sense. So you got to ask yourself, like, what needs to happen first in what order in order for me to move on to the next step? So for example, you can't really start creating the sales page for your course until you have validated the idea or something like that. So make sure that everything is laid out in a logical order. This could be like you need to build your email list, right? Because you can't launch without an email list. So that should be a priority. Creating a freebie and a landing page, that needs to be a priority. Validating your course, because you can't do anything, you can't start creating modules until your course is validated, right? So when you put things into a logical order, you're going to start to see it take shape as like, oh yeah, I can't, it's sort of like how in Asana has like that like waiting on thing where it's like, you know that you can't move on to this next thing without having the first thing done. So that's kind of how you figure out the order of things. Obviously, in Launch Your Signature course, we give you the order of things that makes the most sense from us doing this and working with thousands of our students. So if you're kind of confused on like what to do when, then it's very much like laid out in exhaustive detail in our program.
I would also say, if you don't know, like, give yourself that chance to just brain dump. Like, okay, I'm not going to worry about the order yet. I'm going to like dump everything out. And then once I have like this brain dump of tasks, then I can go ahead and like put it in a logical order.
Exactly.
That makes sense. But putting it in order is very important.
Yes. Because that's the order that you're going to actually do the 2-week sprints in. Okay.
Yeah.
So then what you're going to do is break down each piece of the creation and launching of your course into small projects that can be accomplished in 2 weeks. So for example, if right now you're looking at this brain dump and it's like all this stuff that you have to do, how can you collect those things into 2-week projects that are related, right? You don't want to have like create module 1 and write the launch emails like at the same time. Let's try to keep it so that everything is cohesive and almost like a batch, right? You want to be doing, yeah, exactly.
You want to be focused kind of in the same mindset, just like when people say you should do all of your writing in this one period, because you can really develop a rhythm and write faster than like writing and then all of a sudden you're creating a sales page and being creative, and then all of a sudden you're doing something else. So
yeah,
definitely want to
even just like this week, like so right now, like as we're recording this, I'm in the process of re-recording all of our Webinar Rockstar course and like literally remaking the entire course from the ground up. And I realized that sprinting on it it's like when I was trying to just update that course in the gaps between other projects, it was like it was so difficult to jump back into it because I was like, well, where was I in the slides? Where was I in the outline? Really, what was I in the flow of saying? You can't really remember. It's so hard to jump in and out of a project. Whereas in the last week, because I was sprinting on it, every morning, open up the same document. I know exactly where I am. I know where I left off the night before. I'm just jumping back into the momentum that I already had instead of feeling like, oh, well, if I open this document, like I have to read through everything because I totally forget like where we were.
That's such a good point.
So it's really important, like you said, like it's the idea of batching and getting into that flow of like, you're already doing it. You know how it feels. You know what you're doing. Okay, so you want to break down everything into small projects that are realistic to be accomplished in 2 weeks. And I will say right off the bat that you will get better at estimating what takes you 2 weeks. You will not be good at it at first, and then you will get better at it. So like if your first couple sprints end up being like, oh, a lot of stuff gets bumped into the next sprint, don't worry about it. It all takes all of us that time to like figure out what really is realistic for us to do in 2 weeks. For example, like creating an entire course, like create my course. Like you can't put that down as a project that you're going to do in 2 weeks. That's just not going to happen. We need to break it down into smaller chunks, right? So something like creating that sales page in 2 weeks, maybe just like creating 3 modules or something because you're in the flow and you can get half the modules done or something like that. And like I said, what you can personally accomplish in 2 weeks, it depends on your time in your life and like your responsibilities. You know, if you have a job, we have a team of 6 full-time people. So like us working on a sprint for 2 weeks looks a lot different than like a solopreneur working on the side of her day job.
Yeah, but this strategy still works. And we talked about this in the last episode about how to find time to create a course. And so I don't want to rehash that whole thing, but you can find time to do this no matter your situation. You just adapt the sprint to meet the time you have. So, like Mariah said, 40 hours a week times 6 people is like you can accomplish a lot more as a team than you can if you only have 1 to 4 hours a week as a solopreneur, but that's okay. Still do the strategy. You're just going to make a more digestible little chunk. So instead of doing 3 modules, maybe you do 1 module, or maybe you just rough outline all of the modules really quickly, or maybe you do 1 module at a time. So it can work. You'll just probably be doing smaller projects than we might give examples for.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so now what you have to do is schedule all this stuff into a sprint. I just slightly changed my sprints that I had planned live while we were recording this. Because I realized that some of the things are kind of happening at the same time. And this is something like that so the cool thing about sprints and the cool thing about Scrum, if you do end up reading the book Scrum, which is really good, it's very flexible. It's like designed to be how people actually work, which is things take longer than you think they're going to, and it has to be flexible, and you actually you can't plan for 6 months down the line because you're going to come up with a different idea, or you're going to come up against a different challenge that you could not anticipate 6 months earlier. So you only plan really these like 2 to 4 weeks in advance, knowing that things are going to expand and change. So basically, here's an example of the process of creating and launching a course in a really sort of broad overview. This isn't like it shouldn't be super detailed because it's like, this is what you're going to be working on for 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
So here's everything, and don't stray from what is included in that sprint. So I know it can be tempting to be like, oh, I feel really inspired to like write a blog post right now. But if you really need to be working on your sales page, like you just have to work on the discipline of finishing one project before you move on to the next project. If we let ourselves constantly have half-finished projects and moving on to the next one because we're like, well, it's still working, I'm still making progress, then nothing will ever get done. Trust me. Yeah. So please just like stick with it. And, people say, well, how do you learn that skill of like discipline? And it just takes time. Like it'll just take a couple of sprints.
Practice
and
time.
Definitely.
And learning yourself, self-awareness is key.
I agree.
But you'll get better. So
you'll get better.
So we're going to map out, you're going to go through, this is 6 sprints.
Yes.
That you're going to map out?
Yes. Okay. So 6 sprints, each is 2 weeks. That'll happen over a 12-week period. Okay. So what you want to do is the first 2-week sprint would be just the first thing you should do is set up a freebie on a landing page and start getting traffic to that landing page. This is part of the process of validating your course. So those first 2 weeks of you being like, I have an idea for a course, the first thing you're going to want to do is get a landing page up, get that idea out there and collecting interest, right? We just call it like kind of getting leads that are maybe interested in your course topic and using that to validate your course. So those first 2 weeks, you need to do a couple things to validate your course. Like within these 2 weeks, you're going to be collecting those emails. You might do a couple surveys. You might create a poll in a Facebook group full of your ideal customer to see like if they like your ideas, or if you have 2 or 3 ideas, you could see which one they're more interested in. We have students of ours right now who are going through Your First 1K who are using polls in groups to get really good feedback on their ideas, and it's been really successful. So things like that. It might also include copy stocking, of course, which is doing all the research on the desires, fears, and questions that your ideal customers have. So you're validating your course during those first 2 weeks. The next 2 weeks is going to be building your pre-sale page. And your pre-sale page looks the same as your sales page. There's just a couple of tweaks. And this is stuff that we go over in Launch Your Signature course. But really the final form and the only true form of validation is making sales, which is why we ask that you pre-sell your course before you create all the content. So you want to start pre-selling it. So very kind of early in the game, you're going to be creating a pre-sale page. This pre-sale page is going to evolve, but I want you to spend the next sprint, the second sprint of 2 weeks, getting that pre-sale page ready to launch. Okay, the next sprint, the third sprint, is going to be creating the first couple modules of your course. This could be creating modules 1 and 2, creating modules 1 through 4. The idea here is that once you started getting validation and you started making pre-sales, it's time for you to create the first couple modules of your course. When you actually open up and do your real launch at your full price, that's when you can start creating the rest of your modules. But I do encourage you before you launch to have either 2 to 4 modules that are already ready to go when you do launch. The next sprint I have down is to do a webinar blitz. And so this would be 2 weeks of you doing webinars with joint venture partners or just doing webinars on your own. But it would be doing webinars to pump up your list and build your list before you launch, and also test out some of your content ideas. We have students who use pitch-free webinars to test out their course ideas, basically. Does anyone sign up for this?
And you get good questions too.
Yeah.
Like I think this is the first time you're really teaching this topic. And you're going to realize that there's like a gap you kind of forgot that not everyone knows, or like this area you always thought was common sense, you're going to realize isn't. So it's really enlightening. I agree. I love the idea of this being pitch free. I think that's going to really help you just gather more strategic leads for when you do launch. And
and one of the things we talk about in Launch Your Signature course is creating what we call a signature webinar, which is a webinar that you deliver multiple times during a launch, and that you will repurpose a lot in the future as well. So some of our students, if you're doing your first couple webinars, you're not sure what's going to convert, or you're not sure what's going to be the best idea. So doing a couple of weeks of testing out 2 or 3 webinar ideas, seeing which one gets the most signups and gets the most engagement, is a good way to say, oh, well, that's the one that I should turn into my signature webinar that you're going to do on a bigger scale during your real launch. So it's a really good way to kind of test out, you don't want your first webinar to be your signature webinar and have it be a flop. So it's good to test it out and just do a couple of pitch-free webinars and see what people are signing up for or responding to. So I kind of put that in there as this period of doing a webinar blitz. And then the 5th sprint is going to be creating your launch content. So you're getting closer to your actual launch. At this point, you want to write all of your launch emails and all of your social media posts and any of blog posts or anything else that you're going to be putting out there as pre-launch free content that's going to be going out in the 4 weeks before you actually launch your course. So I like to do that all at once because I find that there's a lot of overlap. To me, there's always overlap in I write all the emails in a big, long, flowing document. It's just this one document with every email. So I write that in a big batch. And then I notice that a lot of the phrases that I've said in those emails, I want those to become Facebook posts and I want them to become Instagram captions. So I write all of that content all at once. And then some of it also becomes blog posts or podcast episodes, So it can become any of that stuff. So it's good to just create all that free launch content that you're going to be releasing all at once. And then your final sprint number 6, would be setting up all the tech, testing it, and then actually doing the launch. Not that you're waiting till the last minute, but kind of the final thing that you do is set up your actual course, load it all into your course platform, just make sure that your payment buttons are working. Usually do that 2 weeks before your launch or a week before your launch or something like that. And then you're going to open up your actual launch.
Yay. So see, that makes me feel, I know that's a lot, but at the same time, breaking it down into those 2 weeks, when you're in sprint number 1, where you're doing your freebie and you're validating, you can literally block out any stress or thoughts you have on the modules. You can say, not right now. I'm not going to worry about what module 3 is really going to look like right now. I'm going to focus on building my list and doing this freebie and validating my course before I get stressed out with what slide design will I use for my course. And I think that I remember we talked about this when we started implementing sprinting, that was kind of hard to do at first. You kind of you're not used to restricting that. The average person is usually letting their thoughts guide them.
You're used to getting stressed about something that you're going to do in a month. And it's
so it's an adjustment, but I feel like we would both agree that when you do start to really own it and embrace it and say, nope, I'm going to worry about that later. Or even I know Beverly, one of our team members, does this. You can have a notepad next to you and maybe a thought comes to you or a question comes to you about something else. You can just quickly jot it down, knowing that you've captured that question or thought, but you're going to deal with it later.
Yeah.
But
you're not going to go down that rabbit hole now.
Save that for later. But I love doing this, and the focus it brings you, I think everyone's going to really benefit from. So quick recap of the 6. So sprint number 1 is validating your course through setting up a freebie and building a list. Sprint 2 was building your pre-sale page. Sprint 3 was creating the first few modules. Sprint 4 was doing a webinar blitz. Sprint 5 was creating the launch content and everything that's going to go into that. And then the last sprint was setting up all of the technology and testing it, and then you're ready to launch.
Yep. That's really good. Yeah, exactly. And I think, just like you said, sticking to breaking something so big and overwhelming, like creating and launching a course, like there's so many things that are going to help you get through that, but really breaking it down and not letting yourself, we see so many of our students worrying about step 10 when they haven't even done step 1 yet. So
yeah, like they don't even know their topic and they're like, how do you handle refunds? And it's like,
slow down.
Don't worry about that quite yet. Like you'll get there.
Yeah. Exactly. So, I mean, even just like you said, Megan, for your mental sanity, this is like worrying about the thing that you need to tackle immediately, like right now and today, is going to change how you work instead of letting yourself like get crazy about things that you don't have to do for like 2 months down the line. And it's just going to help you actually get things done. So I'm excited to have, shared all this stuff with you guys. I hope it's really helpful.
Me too. And don't forget to go to thefemshow.com/28 for the show notes to this episode. I know we mentioned a few things we were going to include in the show notes for links, so definitely check that out. And don't forget to also sign up to watch the replay of the free sprint planning workshop. All of that is in the show notes or below this video if you're watching on YouTube. And if you want to discuss this episode with us in our amazing community of other amazing, why am I saying amazing so much?
Because they're amazing.
Because they are. There are a community of amazing entrepreneurs. Make sure you join our free Facebook group at thefemshow.com/community. I think have we crossed 7,000 members
Close.
yet?
We're at like 6,950 something.
Yeah, so come be our 7,000th member.
Woo! It's a special number. If you guys like this episode, please subscribe to the Femtrepreneur Show on iTunes. Leave a rating and a review. I'm not just saying that. Please really, really do it. It helps us. Reviews make a really big impact. They help us get amazing guests for you every single week. And if you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and leave a comment below so that we can talk to you guys. We love chatting with you, of course. If you have a question that you want to ask us, you want us to give you a shout out on the show and answer your question, go to thefemshow.com, submit your question, and we would love to answer it for you. I don't have my outline in the right spot on my monitor.
Oh, that's okay. Smile. So don't forget your mug.
Oh, oops.
It's so cute.